Okay, so good morning, moth fans. Dave Hodgson here, a bit bleary-eyed, 7:10 in the morning, which is a bit late actually for what I'm about to do. But I'm going to take you out for the most exciting part of the day, the big reveal. What have we found in the moth trap? I'm starting out in the kitchen to show you the 3 essential items of moth trapping equipment apart from the moth trap itself. On the left, a practically antique digital camera. Many of you will use smartphones for this. A moth ID guide, and I've chosen the slimmest pictorial guide available, and a cup of tea. And I need to get my shoes on and get outside into the garden. I'll show you where we're going. There's Misty, the moth hunting hound, who will be joining us, and we're heading out into a tree-lined garden in central Falmouth. You'll hear the seagulls. There were tawny owls calling last night, and I had a quick check in the middle of the night, and there are some moths. This is an urban moth trap, so we don't get quite the same number of exciting species as you might find in a rural trap. I'm going to collect my equipment, head down to the trap, and we'll be back with you very shortly. Okay, so here's my moth trapping station. Table to put things on, chair to sit on, and here is the big reveal. The hunter approaches his trap. It's a Robinson moth trap, so again, another fine antique. Lots of people are using LED style traps, which can be much smaller than this, but this is the classic, the Great British Classic. It's a black plastic drum with a clear sleeve holding the lamp, which I've turned off because it would be very bright and very hot. But it's a mercury vapor lamp, which are being phased out now because of the gases they contain and the risk of breakages. The mercury vapor gas fills the bulb, and when the filament lights, it makes a very, very, very hot and bright light, to which moths are attracted, although we can discuss what it means to be attracted to light for a moth. It's worth checking the outside of the trap as we begin, because you can see we've got some moths already on the outside, and indeed one of my favourites for the garden at this time of year. It's June, by the way, middle of June, is there already on the outside of the trap. We have a willow beauty, classic geometrid with its wings outstretched, but a large moth, not to be confused with the great oak beauty, which we don't get round here. This is smaller, but still very, very pretty. And we'll spend some time with the moths in a second. So I'm just going to take the sleeve off. The geometrids are quite flighty, so you'll see some action in the trap already. It's 7 o'clock, which is quite late already. Again, just checking around the trap to see if there's any moths there, and there is one. So I'm going to stop you and then take you over to the moth identification station. Okay, so welcome to the moth identification station. I'm already quite excited. You can tell when it's been a good night or a bad night because there'll be lots of activity in the trap on a good night. I've been trapping for the last 3 months, all the way through lockdown in 2020. This is the year of the coronavirus, and moth trapping has helped me retain some of my sanity. So there's a few moths we can see already. I'm going to call out some names of things as we find them, but some of them I won't call out because I won't know immediately what they are, because I'm not anywhere near an expert. We'll start with a large yellow underwing, which has just flown away. That was a large noctuid moth, and on the side of the trap we can already see a willow beauty and another geometrid below it, which I won't name yet. I can see immediately here quite a plain specimen, but that is, I think, going to turn out to be an orange footman, but because of the colour I'm going to have to go to the book in a bit to find out. But the shape of it, that shuttle shape, flat with pale wings held together, is typical of a footman. I'm confident with footman it might be an orange one. This is another large yellow underwing which has saved the day because the other one flew away. Large yellow underwing, it's a big moth, and if we were to tickle it you get the flash of the yellow underwing, which we believe is for distracting predators. It's a shock tactic as the moth flies away. I know that one, I can't remember its name. The problem with mothing is that it's always very early in the morning when you do it and your brain's a bit blurry. So there's a nice sandy coloured geometrid held there with its wings out, and below it is a pug. The pugs are very difficult to identify because they're all small and pretty drab, but we'll hang on to that one for a few minutes. There's a nice moth here. Flight season has begun for these and lots of people are finding them in their traps. That is called a pug. No, see my brain, it's not a pug. We saw a pug just before. That's a snout, and you see the mouth parts are extended into a point on that triangular moth, and that's typical of the snouts. There's another geometrid there as well, which I think is going to be a common marbled carpet, a very variable moth. Oh, that's nice. So that one there, if I can get it in focus, it's really small, but it's the classic noctuid shuttle shape, kind of triangular, but the wings aren't held out, and that's going to be interesting to identify. It's a very small noctuid, so that will help. I'm going to race through now. Any egg boxes that have moths on I'll keep to one side, and any that don't will just get put to the side. Oops. Something in there getting ready to fly. The geometrids, I guess because they're smaller, are much readier to fly, so we have to be quick with them. I don't know that one immediately. Looking forward to identifying that one. Nice black and white moth. Something hiding in there. Perhaps you can't see it because it's too dark, but I know already, because the front of it has a black smudge on it, that that is going to be a heart and dart, which is a very common noctuid moth in the garden. Oh, I like this one, because that one does not appear in the ID guide, and that's because it's actually a micromoth. It's quite a large micromoth, but it's not in the standard ID guide. It's got a very distinctive shape to it, and I know from yesterday that that one is a garden pebble. Took a bit of googling to find that. The micromoths are famously difficult to identify, and there are lots of them. Okay, there's a moth hiding in there. Now you'll see I'm not getting the glamorous, furry, cuddly looking moths. No sign of any hawk moths yet. Hopefully we'll see some hawk moths during our moth ID challenge. There. Now, I don't know if you see on the video, but it's got a real purpley tinge to that moth, and I'm pretty sure that's going to turn out to be something called a purple clay. We'll see. Okay, that's a nicer example, more obvious example. I told you about the heart and dart before. Here's a heart and dart. We get a lot of these in this trap, and you'll see the reason for the heart and dart is that Now, before we were rudely interrupted by my SD card filling up, we were talking about this moth, a heart and dart. So the kidney organ on the wing is dark, looks I suppose a bit like a heart, but there's a clear dart heading towards it, that thin black mark on the wing. That's typical, and at the front of the moth is a black eyebrow. Many hundreds of the heart and dart visit this trap every day. Well, I say hundreds, of course, I'm talking about 5 or 6. I don't like to exaggerate, but I can't help myself. So moths appearing. Oh, there's a nice moth for us. We get excited when we see a splash of new colour or a new marking that is instantly unfamiliar. That moth is vibrating its wings, getting ready to fly, which worries me because I haven't identified it yet. So I'm hoping that we can keep that one dark, settle it down a bit. That's pretty, and I don't recognise that immediately, so that's going to be fun to identify. The geometrids are always difficult, and they do have a tendency to fly away. Aha! I remember seeing this last night as I checked the trap. Look at that, pretty yellow. Not all moths are brown and boring, so that's going to be a brimstone. We'll check that in a few minutes. Well, I'll accompany this video with photographs of the moths that we find today. Now, if the camera can focus, that's a nice moth because of the black markings, and there's a few species that could be. So there's a Hebrew character because the black marking is supposed to look like a Hebrew letter. There's also a cetaceous Hebrew character, but there are other species that could be. So that's one for the ID guide. Getting to the bottom of the trap. So disappointment can sometimes start to rise. There's a harvestman who's colonised the trap as well, hoping to find some prey. It's unusual to see some things that are attracted to light. I trapped in late summer last year to find wasps in the trap and no moths at all. That's a nice one, called a flame shoulder, and the markings are such. It's not particularly flame-like, but the pale markings down the shoulders make it a very distinctive noctuid moth. Flame shoulder. The last few egg boxes. No hawk moth for me this morning, but I'm sure there will be some in the traps and in the workshop. And a quick scan round the trap, and oh, there's one on the edge there. It's a geometrid, so it's going to fly. Ah, it flew. There we go. Check around the edge, just to make sure we haven't missed anything. Always optimistic. And there's our catch. So now the task of photographing and IDing. So I'm going to race you through these. This is the brimstone moth, the yellow one, Apisthographis luteolata, a classic geometrid with its outstretched wings. There's a noctuid, which is common in the garden. This is rustic, Hoplodrina blanda, perhaps to reflect its mostly brown status, but very distinct kidney marks on the wing. Here's the flame shoulder, Ochropleura plecta, with its fine pale marks along its shoulders, hence the name. A terrible photo of a very purpley tinged moth. This is the purple clay, Diasia brunea, another noctuid. Now, very distinctive, the heart and dart. This has got a great Latin name, Agrotis exclamationis, I guess to reflect the exclamation markings on the wing. Here's a nice geometrid with its wings outstretched. This is the riband wave, Idea aversata. That took me a little while, and I was trying to work out how many wings it still had. Very common in my trap is the common marbled carpet, extremely variable in its colour morphs, Chloroclista truncata, another geometrid. Now, this one had me foxed for a long time, and I'm likely to be wrong, but I honestly think I might have a Brussels lace here, Cleorodes lichinaria. I've left in two at the end, a pug that I'm really going to struggle to identify, so I leave that as a challenge, but hopefully the markings will be distinctive. And this one has me totally foxed. So two big question marks on this, and I will revise the recording when I finally discover what it is, but it's a beauty.